Billionaire's girlfriend mocked Waitress. Her fluent Arabic left him speechless. The restaurant sat on the 43rd floor of a glass tower in downtown Dubai, the kind of place where the menu had no prices because the people who ate there never asked. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city below like a painting, and every table was spaced far enough apart that conversations stayed private. Or at least that was the assumption. On a Thursday evening in late October, that assumption cost someone everything they thought they knew about themselves. Marcus Hale was 38, American-born, the founder of a private equity firm that had made him worth approximately $4 billion by the time he turned 35. He was tall, well-dressed, and possessed of the kind of easy confidence that comes not from character, but from never having been genuinely challenged. Beside him sat his girlfriend, Vivian, 29, French-born, raised in Paris, and educated in the very specific art of making other people feel small. She wore her beauty like armor and her money like a language, fluently, constantly, as a way of separating herself from anyone she considered beneath her. Together they made a particular kind of couple, the sort that other tables noticed but tried not to watch. Their waitress that evening was a young woman named Samira. She was 24, Egyptian by birth, raised between Cairo and London, and had been working at this restaurant for 18 months while completing her postgraduate degree in international linguistics. At the University of Dubai, she spoke 5 languages: Arabic, English, French, Italian, and Mandarin, with the kind of effortless precision that came from a childhood spent moving between cultures. She carried her intelligence quietly, the way people do when they have never needed to announce it. When Samira approached the table and greeted them warmly in English, Vivian looked at her the way certain women look at service staff, not with hostility exactly, but with a complete and practiced absence of acknowledgement, as though Samira were a function rather than a person. When Samira's English carried the faintest trace of an accent, barely there, more melody than error, Vivian leaned toward Marcus and said something in French, something low and fast, and then laughed. The laugh was the kind that is designed to be overheard just enough to sting, but not enough to confront. It was a social weapon sharpened by years of use. Marcus smiled. Not his full smile, just enough to show that he had heard and that he agreed, that he and Vivian were on one side of something and Samira was on the other. Samira stood still. She had been here before, not this restaurant. Not this exact moment, but this particular species of cruelty, dressed in expensive clothes and delivered with a smile. She let the silence breathe for exactly 3 seconds. Then she looked at Vivian directly. And in Arabic so fluid, so precisely accented, so naturally delivered, that it stopped every nearby conversation cold. She said, "Your French is beautiful, but your manners could use some work. The accent you're mocking, by the way, belongs to someone who speaks your language better than you speak kindness." She said it without anger, without performance, without even raising a voice above the gentle register. She had used to take their order. She said it the way a professor states a fact, because it was one. The silence that followed was not the silence of shock alone. It was the silence of recalibration, of an entire room quietly reassessing what they had just witnessed. Vivian's smile collapsed. It didn't fade. It collapsed, the way structures do when the foundation gives out all at once. She looked at Marcus. Marcus looked at Samira. And for the first time in a very long while, Marcus Hale had absolutely nothing to say. He was a man who had built a career on reading rooms, on knowing where power sat, on understanding the invisible hierarchies that governed every space he entered. In that moment, in that restaurant, with that silence wrapping around him like something he could not buy his way out of, he understood with complete and uncomfortable clarity that he had fundamentally misread this room. Samira set their menus down gently and told them she would return when they were ready to order. She walked back to the service station with the same quiet composure she had arrived with, because that was the thing about real dignity. It didn't need a grand exit. It simply remained itself. Marcus didn't speak for a long time. Vivian reached for her water glass and looked out at the city. Later that night, riding in silence back to their hotel, Marcus would think about that moment again and again, not with shame exactly, but with the slow, uncomfortable awareness of a man who had allowed the wrong person to define his values for too long. Some lessons arrive loudly, some arrive in 5 languages, without a single raised voice, delivered by a woman whose name he had not once thought to ask. If this story stayed with you, please like, share and subscribe to our channel, Kindness True Stories, where every story reminds us that true intelligence and grace will always silence arrogance.